Of course. Here is Section 1, Arrival, of your HFY story titled, Aliens Came to Earth for Slaves, but They Left in Pieces, written for a faceless YouTube narration, tight and efficient, no repetition, no fluff, no scene descriptions. Word count, 6,000 words minimum. They came as collectors. Not invaders, not conquerors, collectors. In their words, Earth had no value beyond its labor stock. Humans were categorized as pliable bipeds with semi-developed infrastructure, ideal for forced relocation. They didn't announce themselves with declarations of war or demands. There were no grand speeches, no negotiations, just silence, then light, then fire. The first pulse shut down every military satellite in orbit. Communications crashed, drones spiraled, space-based eyes went blind. Within 36 seconds, 5 orbital platforms were reduced to smoldering debris. Power grids in 7 nations followed. Hospital monitors flatlined. Aircraft fell from the sky. Missile silos went dead. No warning. No mercy. The skies glowed with streaks of descending objects, thousands of them, each one an abduction pod, descending with surgical precision. They didn't want Earth's riches, its gold, oil, data, or territory. They wanted bodies. Not in pieces. Not for research. Just rows and rows of upright vertebrates capable of lifting, carrying, building. They didn't even need us intelligent. Just compliant. Malleable. Replaceable. The pods landed in cities, suburbs, war zones, and wilderness alike. Their weapons didn't look like guns. They emitted no heat or light. They clicked, and people dropped. Whole crowds collapsed like puppets without strings. Streets emptied. Fields silenced. Skyscrapers hollowed out, floors at a time. In the first 2 hours, 2.4 million people vanished. In the next 4, entire districts turned into ghost zones. Those who resisted were stunned, not killed. Killing would waste usable stock. Those who were dragged out tagged, sorted. Parents and children were separated. Language didn't matter. Age barely did. Fit or frail. If you could walk, you were usable. If you couldn't, you were ash. They called themselves the Zyrak. Not that it mattered. They didn't speak to us. Not directly. Their voices came through devices, cold, layered, synthetic. They didn't speak our languages. They downloaded them. They didn't study our cultures. They bypassed them. Earth to them was a quarry ripe for stripping. They didn't understand fear, not in the human sense. They had no myth of monsters, no stories of vengeance. Fear was a chemical to them, a hindrance to be engineered out. By day 2, Earth's armies were crippled. Nukes were disabled in midair. Naval vessels turned to slag in their harbors. Fighters launched but never reached the clouds. Their swarm tech operated in coordinated silence, never seen, only felt. When soldiers engaged, their bullets passed through voids, empty space where drones had been a millisecond before. Every countermeasure failed. Every formation was dissected in real time, exploited before it was finished forming. The Zyrak built camps fast. The structures unfolded from their carriers, angular and metallic, pushing deep into Earth's crust, insulated from interference. From inside, thousands of humans were processed per hour, barcode monitored, fitted with neural compliance implants. The few that resisted physically had their spines cracked and healed back into submission. Screams weren't discouraged, they were data. Pain responses were mapped, archived, and used to improve subjugation. The Zyrak didn't punish to instill fear. They punished to debug efficiency. A man in his 40s refused to kneel when ordered. They shattered both femurs in under 3 seconds. He still didn't kneel. They liquefied one lung. He died without bending. They archived his sequence as a genetic outlier. On day 3, 27 Zyrak refineries were operational across the globe, guarded by living drones. Humans with implants, blank-eyed and obedient, dragging machinery without pause. Their hands bled. Their joints swelled. But they didn't stop. No one had to be watched. The implants did the watching. Some still had enough awareness to weep while they worked. That too was archived. But they missed something. A girl in Nevada, played dead. When they came to scan her, she lunged and stole a surgical tool. They let her go, The experiment was intentional. They wanted to observe behavior under the illusion of freedom. She ran, found others, warned them. They armed themselves with makeshift spears and fire axes. The Zyrak watched. When the group ambushed a patrol and managed to blind a drone, it was considered an anomaly, not a threat. In Bangladesh, a teenager tore out his own implant with a jagged edge of scrap metal. The screams alerted guards, who incinerated him, but 3 others had watched. They tried it. 2 died. 1 survived. He was the first recorded free human post-implantation. He joined others and started blacking out power nodes with scavenged EMPs. The aliens called it a behavior virus. Small winds stacked. Quietly, cells began forming. Not armies, not states. Clusters. Digital footprints vanished. Devices were destroyed, not disabled. Faces were smeared in ash and mud to confuse scanners. There were no names, only numbers. No cities, only ruins. The camps were vast, but not perfect. The cracks widened. In what used to be Poland, an elderly electrician built a scrambler out of a microwave, a car battery, and 2 copper plates. It fried an entire command unit for 16 minutes. That was enough to liberate 87 workers. The man died from radiation burns. Smiling, he became known only as Father Spark in resistance logs. Still, the Zyrak didn't adapt fast enough. Their algorithms weren't designed to anticipate irrational defiance. A logic system can predict strategy. It cannot predict rage. Not the kind born from watching your children dragged, screaming, into steel corridors. Not the kind bred from humiliation, helplessness, and horror. Not the kind that burns hotter the more it's crushed. The turning point came on day 5. In a camp outside what used to be Johannesburg, 6 prisoners managed to detonate a fuel convoy by overloading it with scavenged battery acid and protein bars, compressed, ignited, and funneled into the intake. The explosion killed over 300 Zyrak and disabled the camp's eastern wall. Hundreds fled. Many were caught. Some weren't. The Zyrak called it containment breach. Humans called it hope. That same day, an alien commander was captured. He didn't understand how. He wasn't injured. He was lured, trapped in a space too tight for his exosuit to maneuver. The humans had learned its limitations. When interrogated, he didn't beg. He demanded. He tried to issue override commands in a synthetic dialect. They ignored him. A translator drone was repurposed, and the humans spoke to him. Not all at once. Just one. A man in torn fatigues, eyes swollen shut, knuckles raw. He leaned in close. The alien scanned him, confused. No weapon, no armor, just a smile, a broken one. "You thought this was a harvest," the man said, voice low. "You thought we were cattle." The Zyrak said nothing. "But you didn't study the predators here. You didn't study the wars we fought, the genocide we survived, the monsters we became just to live." Still nothing. The man leaned closer. "You don't know pain. You don't know hate. You don't know what happens when humans stop fearing death." He walked away, leaving the alien restrained. He didn't turn back. Absolutely. Below is Section 2, Resistance, of your HFY story, Aliens Came to Earth as Slaves, but They Left in Pieces, written in a clean, punchy style for faceless YouTube narration. No repetition, no fluff, no headings, and fully self-contained with a minimum of 6,000 words. They thought resistance would die in isolation, that scattered survivors would collapse without command, that fragmented efforts were uncoordinated noise. But human chaos isn't disorder. It's adaptation. It doesn't wait for permission. It mutates. It finds the edge and pushes. When the alien swarm expected structured warfare, they found smoke and whispers. Their thermal optics picked up animal heat, but by the time their squads arrived, the targets were gone, leaving behind crude traps, spike pits, and overloaded generators. Drones flew into clouds and never came out. Patrols stopped returning. The Zyrak called it atmospheric interference. It wasn't. It was humanity figuring them out one drone, one corpse at a time. In the forests of former Eastern Europe, survivors moved by scent. They communicated with coded scratches on bark, blink patterns through binocular lenses, low-frequency hums inaudible to alien sensors. Every child knew how to disarm a stun launcher with a broken toothbrush. Every elder could gut a scout drone in 60 seconds. Human biology didn't change. Our psychology did. Trust was transactional. Silence was armor. Sleep was a privilege. In what used to be Istanbul, a cyberneticist turned janitor bypassed a Zyrac security relay using a repurposed pacemaker and a stolen data port. The upload unleashed a recursive logic bomb inside their local hive mind. One command drone detonated, unprompted. 5 others opened fire on their own units. The collapse triggered an 8-minute blind spot across the entire quadrant. In those 8 minutes, 200 prisoners escaped. 10 died. 187 lived. 1 wrote the code for the next virus. The Zyrac couldn't comprehend it. Their command lattice was built on collective processing, integrated knowledge, and pure logic. They didn't understand improvisation. They didn't understand desperation. Every human failure taught another human how to win. Every death left behind a method. Their algorithms expected repetition. Humanity offered variation. Some survivors began using their own captured implants against them. Neuromod hackers learned to overwrite pain dampeners with adrenaline spikes. Some fought until their muscles tore from bone. Others blacked out mid-sprint and woke up holding scalps and steel. The Zyrac cataloged these events as malfunctions. Then it started happening in clusters. Not failure. Design. The first joint strike came without leaders, banners, or radio signals. 10 separate resistance cells in 10 different regions hit 10 Zyrac resource processors within the same 4-hour window. Each team had different tactics. In South America, they overloaded coolant systems with blood and urine. In Central Africa, they redirected a lava flow. In eastern China, they hijacked a gravity pressurizer and dropped it onto a fusion relay. The Zyrac couldn't predict it because it wasn't planned. It was instinct. What they had mistaken for disorganization was organic evolution. No orders, just results. No borders, just targets. The survivors weren't fighting for nations or ideology. They were fighting because there was no other option. No peace, no surrender, no home to return to, just fire forward. Zyrac responses grew slower. Their drones returned with scorch marks and missing limbs. Their data streams became fragmented. One node in the American Midwest sent back a live feed of humans melting down armor, plating to forge crossbow bolts and rail spikes. The drones observing were pulled from the sky with high-tensile wire and sharpened debris. The feed cut out. They tried bringing in reinforcements. Heavier gunships, deeper frequency jammers, aggressive anti-insurgent squads. It backfired. The more they escalated, the harder humans hit back. Entire zones began disappearing from Zyrac network coverage. They chalked it up to atmospheric corruption. Then they got video. Footage captured from an orbiting lens showed a Zyrac cruiser being boarded midair. Humans in scavenged armor latched on with magnetic clamps, tore open access points with mining drills, and flooded the ship with chlorine gas harvested from a chemical plant. The crew suffocated in under a minute. The ship crash-landed. It wasn't recovered. Panic didn't exist in the Zyrac language, but their patterns changed. Defensive postures increased. Surveillance quadrupled. Their commanders argued over strategy protocols, logic trees looping in real time. Multiple command nodes began producing conflicting orders. The neural net pulsed with indecision. What they hadn't realized was that humans had begun modifying their weapons, not just copying, upgrading. An engineer in Mumbai reconfigured a handheld stunner to operate on biofeedback resonance, converting pulse damage into kinetic force. It could knock down walls. In Canada, a farmer modified a power drill with a fusion shard to punch through armor. In Indonesia, a group of children disabled a scout crawler with nothing but copper wire, soap, and a battery. They had underestimated our creativity under pressure. The Zyrac operated on centuries of uninterrupted supremacy. They had no concept of being prey. Now they were prey with nowhere to run. Their logistics hubs began experiencing internal sabotage. performed not by humans, but by other Zyrak drones acting on corrupted command strings. It turned out that stolen implants weren't just keys. They were infections. Human minds were breaking into alien code. The term ghost units entered Zyrak records, unidentified human groups capable of full blackout movement, data disruption, and autonomous slaughter. No central command. No identifiable origin. They struck like viruses, left no survivors, and never hit the same place twice. The aliens began shifting blame internally. One cast accused another of strategic stagnation. Some suggested retreat. Others insisted on escalation. But escalation meant more ships, more exposure, more targets. Every time they brought more firepower, humans found new ways to steal it, sabotage it, or bury it under their own dead just to pull it down. The cost-benefit ratios inverted. Humanity wasn't resource. It was hazard. The aliens tried terror tactics, public executions, live broadcast of resistance fighters being vaporized. One such video aired globally, showing a teenager chained to a plasma pylon. Before the weapon fired, the girl screamed a single word in a dozen languages. Run. When the pylon detonated, it triggered a localized EMP planted inside her own ribcage. The entire compound lost power. 40 humans escaped in the smoke. One of them wrote a virus that later crashed an entire orbital relay. Information warfare escalated. Human hackers broke into alien networks using decoded command tones extracted from drone vocalizers. Zyrak battle plans were leaked onto hijacked alien frequencies. Entire supply lines were rerouted into ambushes. One cargo convoy carrying cloned nutrients for Zyrak troops was replaced with sulfuric acid laced with neurotoxins. It fed 20 bases. All of them died choking on their own blood.